Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining today's session. My name is Isabel. I am an event planner for the Reactor, joining you live from Sydney, Australia. Before we begin today's session, we have a quick housekeeping. We're committed to fostering a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, please let's keep the comments respectful and constructive throughout the session. And please remember to stay on topic. Today's session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand within 24 to 48 hours right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. And if this is your first time attending a Microsoft Reactor session, please note that you must create a YouTube account in order to have access and interact in the chat. You can set that up now. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on social media or through our website. Thank you all for joining us on this session of the Copilot Corner series. Today's session is called Mastering Copilot in PowerPoint. I'm excited to introduce our fantastic speaker, Kirsty, and will now be handing over the spotlight to her. The floor is yours, Kirsty.
Hello, and welcome. We're at the we're actually at the halfway point in the series. I think there's 11 all up, and this is now number 6. And thank you for joining me again today if you have come to a previous session. So we are going to go through PowerPoint. And there's certainly plenty that we can talk about. I am a Microsoft MVP. I have 7 awards in this space. My theme is hopefully no user left behind. So come along on the journey with me. Feel free to go and register for further sessions on the Copilot Corner. We have a few more coming up over the coming weeks. They're now all announced if you haven't seen them. So those recordings are all live. We are going to be going through, PowerPoint, a few things. What do you have? Prompting. Some of the fun things that you can do. Don't forget, in the previous series, I've talked about the GCSE and good prompting. We've also gone through the taxonomy around prompting with AI and Copilot Chat and all of the other fun areas. So if you want to know more about the art of the prompt, go watch our previous videos that we've actually got live on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. So where will you find it? We've talked about in terms of it being right across the ecosystem. The great thing is, and with PowerPoint, there are other products that also feed into PowerPoint to make it easy for you to get your work done. So if you've actually got a license, so you need a license to be able to utilize it inside PowerPoint. One of the quickest and easiest ways is if you're just going straight to the web to m365.cloud.microsoft, you'll soon see if you actually have a license, you'll see the Work Web button up the top. And then when you move into PowerPoint itself, it will then come in and actually be embedded into that PowerPoint ecosystem. So we've got the PowerPoint button. It's running up the top here. And when you click on it, we'll actually open up your Copilot pane. And in the top left-hand corner, you've actually got your narrative builder. And you can sometimes do different things in PowerPoint depending on which one you actually go to, whether you go over here to the right or you go over here to the left, to the narrative builder. Now, I use them for different reasons. So there is different functionality that kind of comes with the two. So when I go in and I start to do some design and creation, more often than not, if I really want to play around with, so if I want to create some new slides, that narrative builder allows me to be able to edit and adjust a whole heap more than if I come over onto the right-hand side and I go create from here. Because over on the right-hand side, it kind of just immediately creates things and drops it into your presentation. So I do like the narrative builder. It really helps me. However, when I do something from a file, and I'll show you this, I can only choose things that are in the recent list. Whereas if I create from a file over here, I can actually upload and look at the cloud and get other information. So there is a little bit of different, functionality depending on where you go. And over time, you'll start to kind of go, which one are you trying to do along the way? Okay. Now, what can you do in PowerPoint? There's lots of different functionality. You can suggest certain information, create and design. You can come and, get your information and coaching and all sorts of fun stuff right across the PowerPoint ecosystem. I'm going to show you some of this. One of the things that I often get asked about is I have a template. What does that template, can I actually use it? Well, yes, you can. But one of the things is it's much better if you do put it into your branding center. So it's got a part of your SharePoint ILL. And then that way it draws it in and you can choose it from the list. And I'll show you in the narrative builder how to actually do that. Because one of the things is if you go create a new presentation, it usually kind of wipes your template and gives you a whole new one, which isn't very helpful. Okay, so there are different things. The other thing is when you do have a corporate template, you can have up to 40 layouts in the back end. So the different layouts in terms of the master layout. And Microsoft have actually provided, some branding to be able to help and support you to build out a template that's going to work well with Copilot. So that AI functionality. And inside there, it goes, these are the different styles and make sure you've got right naming conventions against it. And you've got certain things turned on. I've got it all here in the video for you, but you can go and download the actual PowerPoint itself where it's all got it in there and available for you. So I've put all that into the presentation. Okay. So that functionality, it is important that we kind of have a consideration around it. So if you do have a PowerPoint template and it doesn't seem to be working very well with Copilot, it might be it's kind of not looking at, or the naming conventions of the slides are all a bit aligned, or maybe you've got 150 slides for your master. I saw that just recently, and it's not going to work and align to it, especially when you get lots and lots of customized kind of back end look and feel. It is going to look at certain structures. So in our prompting gallery, there is so many great prompts that you can actually do. In fact, I went in because I kind of went, well, how many actually are there? So I kind of created a bit of a sheet of all of the different prompts, and there are currently 116 prompts that are actually available for you to be able to go and have a look at when it comes to the prompt gallery. I keep a bit of a registry of different things that I can just do quick searches on, but I use the prompt gallery a lot. So from there, prompts that you can actually try. I just then, if I need more, I go see all prompts, and from there I filter it to PowerPoint, and these are all of the prompts that you can find. Those 116 prompts are there. So there's a lot of tried and tested prompts to play around with. In terms of PowerPoint, there's a lot of questions. I get a lot of questions around, well, what can I do? The PowerPoint team tend to be thinking very big when it comes to creating PowerPoints. They want to help people go right from scratch. They want to be able to give you good design ideas, make sure you've got sort of good notes, and they're kind of thinking really big. They're not thinking down in some of the nitty-gritty detail because they find it's actually quicker for you to do it yourself in terms of some of the functionality. So it's not really designed for you to be doing I've copied and pasted 5 different, templates in together. Can you kind of amalgamate and fix it all? It's not going to do that, not at this point anyway. Okay. But you can ask it to do a bit of rewrite of things in terms of boxes, but it's not going to work on certain shapes and objects, for example. So if that's the case, you're probably not going to get it work there in terms of the rewrite feature, which has come into play, and I will show you that. Okay, so have a bit of a play, and don't forget, put your template, get your admin to actually put those corporate templates and publish them in to be able to help you. Now, this we talked about in the Word section because in our last session in Word, it also applies to PowerPoint when it comes to some of the limitations of how many characters and words and that sort of functionality. So these are all really important components. Now, one of the great things that comes into play is Microsoft actually also give you a stock library in PowerPoint for you to be able to just drop in pictures, and it will automatically drop in pictures, but you can also search. Not only that, but coming into play now is you can actually start designing pictures as well. Now, when we talk about some of the designing, things like, the different graphic styles, there's lots of different graphic styles. So when I go in, I want to actually create a picture, there are certain words that I might actually use to help me out in that. It will also understand, you might ask claymation, or you might ask for something that's like Wallace and Gromit, for example. If you kind of think of a movie, you could probably ask it to create some of those images, for example. Now, the video design, it's not actually there at this point. However, what you might find is if you're going on to Creator, for example, or your visual creation side of things, it will actually build out videos and help out, and it will go over instead into Clipchamp. Okay, so it's not so much designing in the PowerPoint space at this point. But some of the words that you could actually use when you're going to create pictures, there's lots of styles. The design industry is a whole industry unto itself, and I'm not going to spend much time on kind of this, but I just want it to be in here to help you because we do know that PowerPoint is very centered around pictures. Okay, pictures actually give you a 76% better recall over words. So if you try and limit it down to kind of 7 words on the page with a picture in the background, something you can talk to, you're probably going to capture the audience a little better. Okay, and talk to the slide. Now, one of the things in terms of its capability, there is the new Create tool, and you're going to find that now in your m365.cloud.microsoft environment. So if you go in there in terms of Create, there are new capabilities that have come into play, and it also flows through into our applications, such as PowerPoint. It's using the new OpenAI GPT-4.0. So this is the new image generation that's come into play. So it's got lots of really great functionality to be able to work with information, including being able to create and convert then over your PowerPoint presentations into videos should you wish to. So this new tool, fabulous, loving it, really seeing it coming into PowerPoint. So the Create tool will look a little bit like this when you go into your account. Now, you might still be going to office.com, or maybe you're actually going to, for example, portal.office.com still, but the new name is the m365.cloud.microsoft. And if you do the /create, you're actually going to get your Create icon if it has rolled out and you've got the new environment. So it is all being rolled out right now. So everyone, it might not have hit you, but it's been pretty close. The great part about this is you can even start setting things like brands and colors, for example, through this, and start doing design from here. This you could then transfer over and drop it into your PowerPoint. I particularly love these features. So you might create a little bit of a video or information here and drag it over. You could also come in and use your Visual Creator. It is kind of designing a little bit together as part of Designer and its functionality around AI. Now, one of the things that I find when I go in, I start creating some pictures, for example, there's a bit of hidden vocabulary that can kind of come on as part of DALL-E. So your DALL-E 2 is what it's now kind of out there, and we're looking at DALL-E. You could ask for just stock library pictures, or you could go, I want it to be using sort of DALL-E or that visual creator when we're building it inside PowerPoint. Now, if it does and you're kind of doing words, you might find it's kind of creating its own language. And there's a variety of reasons as to why that's doing it. More often than not, it might actually use the real name around a particular bird and put it in rather than, if you just said, I want a crow, it might actually give you the name of the species and the whole lot. So it's interesting the way that it's doing. So, for example, I created this one this afternoon where I said, can you turn this into a comic strip for me? You will note that the words are all, this kind of gobbledygook kind of language. There's one because it's using the DALL-E, having its own kind of secret language that's going on, which is then flowing through into the Microsoft environment. And also to kind of protect, there's a whole kind of protection and rights piece that come into play. What I also love in terms of going over into PowerPoint is on a few occasions now, I've actually had it where I've done the translation feature functionality. So I can translate into one of 40 different languages. So it will actually support this for you, and it'll even do the text in its various elements as well. So I do like that, the fact that it goes right down into those elements. I've dropped into the presentation things that I use to create, edit, and different questions that I ask. So let's go over now and have a bit of a play around in PowerPoint and start building. Okay. So let's just bring in a brand new presentation. So you'll see here I've got create or create with a file. So create a whole new one or create with a file. I might have a file that I want to use. Over on the right-hand side, so this is using the navigation builder. Or I could come over here to the right and have a look then at the pane. These give me some standard starting prompts. If I want to, I can go further and go view prompts. So from here, if I was going, I could go just start creating presentation for file, but it's already here. So I would probably kick off from there. But any one of those prompts, you can start to have a bit of a play around with them. Not only that, but what I love is I can save prompts. So if it's something that I use all of the time out of those 116 that are there, for example, then I could save it in and it's under your prompts then in future. It will give you the ability as part of those mega verbs to choose that functionality, for example, and your scenarios based on the kind of industry and personas for effective play. So from here, a lot of the times I will actually use the microphone. Now I'm using my microphone at the moment, so I'm not going to be kind of kicking it off right here, right now. But, often I'll be talking to it, telling it kind of what I want in a natural language. So if I'm going to go and build and design, so for example, if I'm starting completely from scratch, and this is something that I kind of did just recently. Now, if I do it here, create a new presentation, this gives me my narrative builder. So I can go, what's the design looking like? So from here I can go, I want to just choose that standard, or I go change design. So from here, it's got, do you want to use, there's the standard. Here is your organization or Microsoft 365. So if you've got it in your OAL in terms of your branding and your administrator has dropped it in, you're going to find different templates in here. You can ask, have we got it, maybe? If not, you could also come in and choose one of the designs from in here to go, I want it to, in this instance, be a little bit more like, I'm going to go the archway design. So I'm going to select this design. Now, my prompt here is, I've got it. I want a training strategy for Copilot in PowerPoint to, pitch it to the sponsors and the steering committee. It's got to adhere to the ADDIE framework for training strategy. So, these are some of those concepts that we've talked about in the past when it comes to building a good prompt. Things like frameworks and or models or concepts, bring them in. It really helps in the structure. So include suggested timeframes for each phase. I want it to be for our corporate workers. That's going to be an organization that has 550, and I want to include these type of sessions, for example, as part of the framework. Can you give some suggestions? I need it in the third person, and I don't want it any more than 50 slides as part of my presentation. So it's going to be a decent presentation that it builds. Now I could say and reference this particular file. And what it will look at is recent, and you'll see recent Word documents. Okay. Now, that's a little different than if I'm actually referencing and I'm looking at my pane over on the right. So we'll look at that in a minute. But I'm just going to create off the back of this. So I've got the design, and I'm going to go. So now what it's going to do is it understands things like the concept of ADDIE framework, because in the training industry, for example, we often use the ADDIE framework. So now it's going, these are the type of slides. And from here in my navigation builder, I could go, view more topics, for example. So I've got, okay, what else is available? I could go, can you also add potentially in, some of the different, I could go, yep, or phases, evaluation, development. What else do I want? I could, no, go, no, it's all good. Actually, I'm just going to go generate. Now, from here, you'll also note I can move up and down my content. So I could drag it where I need it to based on the handles. I could also add in another section. So I could go, I want to add in another topic about, it could just be, closing, closing slide to thank them for joining, for example. I might just go, drop that in at the end. I could do it before, I could do it after. It might be I want to drop in closing side, key points, highlighting, excellent, courage. Sounds good. Let's generate. So I can adjust it in my narrative builder, and I do like the narrative builder for that very reason. So here we go. Let it build it out. Now, I have done all sorts of ones over time. I have done ones that are based on different training topics rather than a strategy. It could be, can you build me modules, a step-by-step module? It could be, anything that's in there as part of a potential template in Office. If you go File New and you get lots of different types of templates, you could be building off a certain type of design or template, for example. So it goes through, it starts to build it out. It will also drop in pictures that it thinks are relevant based on a particular slide. So as it works its way through, so I've got lots going in. I've said no more than 50, and it's gone, here you go, going based on a particular design and look and feel. Okay. Radio. Now what I'm going to do is I've got my slide. I'm not loving this one. So I'm going to go in and I've got all the design suggestions which come in as part of Copilot. So I can start to go, can we do, this instead? So I've got different looks and feels. So this is kind of very much adhering to the template structure. So it depends on what it is that you want. You could actually adjust it around as you need to. Okay. If you didn't like something in particular, you could choose something else. So I do like it in terms of designer. Now, what else might you then kind of look at? So say, for example, here, let's have a look. Explanation, the benefits, and overview of each phase. So let's go into some of the phases. So I've got 3 phases, of which it's not really talking about the various phases. So I'm going to come back here now, and I want it to take just a little bit further. So here you go. So for this one, and I might do it for each one, I go, for this one, can you take these 3 points and turn them into 3 pages so I can extend on these topics a little bit as part of my strategy? So it'll go, sure, I can do that. So now it'll start to, build this information out a little bit more for me to help and support me when I'm building this program. And here we go. I now have 3 new pages. And it could be here, I've kind of got some information and I'm going to come in and as part of this functionality here, so I've got wording in here. I don't really need so much anymore because it's extended out for me. It could be auto rewrite, condense it, or just visualize it as a list. So it could be, I just want to turn this into a bit of a list. I like it. Thanks very much. So now I've got kind of my 3 topics that I can extend on afterwards. Simplify it down a little bit. If you, were wanting to work or add in another page, you could play around with this. Now, I am just going to come over onto the right and I'm going to you can see down the bottom, I've actually got some notes. It's built some notes based on each one of these. However, I need a little bit more to talk about. So I'm going to ask it to give me some more in-depth speaker notes. And I could just say for this slide or for the whole presentation. Now, I haven't stated, so it's going to go and do it for the whole presentation. But you could limit it down and go, can you give me some extra notes for this particular page? Now, the great part is if I'm starting from a document, like a Word document, for example, it will minimize the content down, and anything it sees as extra that it might think that is of relevance will put it down into the notes for you. So, and now it's given me some extra information on each of those slides. So, like it, thanks very much. It's a lot more comprehensive than what it was previously. I could keep saying and more if I wanted to be able to build it out as part of that structure. So what if I'm starting from an actual file? So let's go, I'm going to create a new presentation with a particular file. So this is going based on recent, but in this instance, let's come over to the right-hand side. So I'm going to go create a presentation from a file here. So now we can start to see other bigger documents. Now, this is the total economic index of, Copilot. It's a 40-page white paper, so it's pretty big. This one is a lot simpler. It's only about 4 pages. So if I'm just saying I want to do it based on this, and if I didn't want to, I don't have to put anything else in, just say go. We'll see what it does. So it just goes, okay, let's go. I could ask it to put in things like, once it's created, if it hasn't put in an agenda slide, what it's going to do is in my Word document over here, it's looking at all of the headings and the content. It's got, executive summaries and information. It's not in any particular depth. But I could do, and I'll show you the big one. So this one is just giving me a bit of a plain kind of stock standard. I could adjust it around. It's giving me an agenda. It will give you different design. I could do it based on video backgrounds. So it's going to give me some different content to have a bit of a play around. So if you didn't like it, it will give you design. Now, if for whatever reason it's kind of throwing up or a little bit of an error or it's saying, I can't kind of work with that at the moment, for example, sometimes what I might even do is I might copy this page into a blank document and get it to generate something really unique so it's not aligned to a particular template and bring it back in. Because sometimes I kind of need that if designer is not loving my personal corporate template. Okay, give me something that's a bit interesting to play with. So I could just adjust this around as I need to. So I could work my way through with designer. Every page will give you a little bit of a, potential suggestion. Okay. And if you didn't like a picture, so you might kind of come in and go, can I have a picture on this page of a kind of a digital map, something like that. So I go, I'm creating a picture. Can I have a picture on the page? Now, if I'm asking something like this, so here are some to choose from, it's actually using kind of a designer functionality here. So this is not pulling from stock. Could be I want to now drop in, I'll do something like that instead. So I could swap it out. I could go, I want to delete this picture here, for example, and now you'll start to see no design suggestions anymore because I've kind of pulled it out of its functionality. So it didn't like the fact that designer, and I'm stepping outside of that designer and or my template framework. But the moment I've got something sitting inside my framework now, I have some suggestions for me to be able to kind of play around and work with. Now, that's something to take into consideration, hence why I was talking about, different functionality where you might actually potentially need to take it somewhere else, for example, if you've kind of really played around with it a lot. So sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. So from here, in terms of my content and playing, if it was a really big document and it's got tables and it's got financial data, it will bring all of that in for you in terms of the functionality. When I'm going in and I'm starting to do some more around my pictures and functionality, so if I just go, I want to create a new chat, for example, generate an image or insert. So generating, I could put in all sorts of fun and interesting things. I could also say, translate this presentation to French. So let's go in, translate to French. So I've got my original version. I'd probably save it. And then it says, this is what you want. Translate, sure. And it will work its way through. And very quickly, I have it now in other languages. You might go back through and go, can you translate it back to English and have a look and see in reverse? How did it kind of come out in terms of its translation? You might go back and forward. But I like doing this where I deal with international audiences like yourself, for example. So a lot of prompts that are actually in here, I will do things like, what questions might they ask about this presentation? I could, work my way through all these functionalities. Now you'll see it generated a new one. So it could just be, what questions might the audience ask about this presentation, for example. So it might give you some suggestions. Where are my gaps? Are there some resources that I can use to learn more about something? What are some common mistakes? What can I do to make it more engaging? There are lots of functionality in here. It will give you some different suggestions. So I do like that as part of my PowerPoint. Now, I've dropped in for you where you can find further information. Our sessions, the Work Smarter in the Copilot blog has some really good content to be able to help you do different functionality. And also in there, if you're looking at kind of what's new, you might look into the Insider blog because it will often tell you in the Insider blog kind of, what's going on in the PowerPoint space. I've put lots of link for learning and functionality and same as what we've got in some of the previous sessions. So where can you go to get some more of those resources? Don't forget to go to Microsoft Learn. You can actually build out from there. My infographic wheel is available for anyone should you actually wish to have a copy of it. It is available online and you can as part of this presentation. But the true power really lies with you in terms of changing some habits and having a play around and thinking first. I use it all the time in PowerPoint. If you still want a copy of this presentation, please feel free to scan the QR code or type in the bit.ly link. You will need to have the exact wording, including capitals, to be able to get to it. The link is also provided for you by the Microsoft Reactor in comments, so you should hopefully have that in the comments, and this recording will be available for those a little bit later on as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session. I haven't seen any comments or questions, so feel free to put them into chat if you do. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining.